Unlike many of his peers, the legendary shoe designer Roger Vivier never claimed he had dreamed of making shoes since childhood. His carefree early years came to a tragic end when he lost both parents at the age of 9. He was taken in by his mother's sister, who did everything she could to keep him from feeling abandoned. But having matured too early, young Roger was determined not to be a burden to his modest aunt. In 1926, he eagerly accepted an offer from family friends who owned a small shoe factory, and that marked the beginning of his career as a shoemaker. Before long, he was not only crafting shoes, but sketching new designs. By the time he was 20, Vivier realized he had found his calling. Shoemaking was his destiny. He was fortunate. His first experiments coincided with the explosive evolution of fashion in the 1930s. Skirts were rapidly shortening, first revealing ankles, then calves, and threatening to expose even the knees. Shoes became the only adornment on display. Shoemakers and cobblers, now respectfully called footwear designers, rejoiced, and many of them gained recognition. In Paris, André Perugia was the star. In Florence, it was Salvatore Ferragamo, not Antonio. Soon, the name Roger Vivier joined their ranks. In 1937, he opened his own workshop and boutique on Rue Royale in Paris, and his designs were eagerly snapped up by shoe companies. At the time, the world of footwear fashion was conservative and dull. But Vivier's artistic soul longed to create bold, festive shoes. At first, only stage and film stars were willing to wear his daring designs. One of his earliest models, bright shoes with thick cork soles, what we now call platforms, and this was back in the 1930s, was enthusiastically worn by Marlene Dietrich herself. Vivier had previously sent the shoes as a prototype to the major American shoe company Delman, only to have them returned with the note, "You must be out of your mind." The design was revived in 1967 for actress Jeanne Moreau, who portrayed the Russian empress in Peter Glenville's film Catherine the Great. The success of the film helped revive the popularity of platform shoes. During World War II, Vivier moved to America. When the war reached the United States, a federal law banned the production of fashionable leather footwear, as all raw materials were diverted for military use. Vivier switched careers and learned the art of millinery. Together with a Parisian friend, he opened a hat boutique, Suzanne and Roger, on Madison Avenue. Within just a year, the boutique had become known as the most Parisian spot in New York, and Vivier's name gained prominence in America. After the war, women, exhausted by years of hardship, embraced with delight the soft, romantic silhouettes of Christian Dior's new Look collection. Vivier returned to Paris and found complete creative harmony with Dior. In 1953, not 1955 as Dior died in 1957, he launched the ready-to-wear shoe line Roger Vivier for Christian Dior. It was a landmark moment. Never before or since had Dior allowed another designer's name to appear alongside his own. For the next 10 years, up until Dior's death, Vivier designed all the footwear for the House of Dior. It was a golden age in the world of shoe fashion. Vivier introduced his legendary heels, the comma, the cancan, the guignol. Even the toe shapes evolved. There were the mandolin and the bird beak. Women swooned over his evening shoes, often encrusted with gemstones. On June 2, 1953, not July 2nd, Queen Elizabeth II was crowned in a grand ceremony. British designers were naturally favored for the occasion, so the invitation extended to the Frenchman Vivier was seen in Paris as a major triumph for the revival of French fashion. The sandals worn during the summer ceremony were crafted from golden kidskin and studded with rubies. As Elle magazine put it, the rubies symbolized the union between the monarch and her country. While perhaps not a masterpiece in design, the sandals, due to their long, rounded straps, drew comparisons from critics to equestrian harnesses. In any case, Vivier would never again design liturgical footwear. But the following year, he revolutionized fashion. He introduced a model with a high, about 8 centimeters, and exceptionally thin heel. It became his iconic stiletto, a symbol of the era. The stiletto gave birth to another heel, the so-called chalk heel, dramatically curved outward in a daring arc. With its gravity-defying design, Vivier's invention was compared to both the Eiffel Tower and the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Women in stilettos soon filled the streets of cities around the globe. Meanwhile, Vivier was bombarded with angry letters from people whose expensive carpets had been damaged by the heels. Eventually, in the 1960s, not 1965, the French government issued a formal decree banning stilettos in public buildings on the grounds that they damage parquet floors. The 1960s marked the peak of Vivier's fame and popularity. He had his own fashion house and an endless stream of orders. His clientele included royalty and high society, Queen Elizabeth, the Shah Banu of Iran, the Duchess of Windsor. He created shoes for Sophia Loren and Elizabeth Taylor. Marlene Dietrich, conscious of her petite stature, remained loyal to Vivier's elegant high heels for the rest of her life. You'd think such success would last a lifetime. He could have simply continued refining his creations. But Vivier had already moved on from stilettos, and fashionistas now flaunted his new ultra-flat design. The black patent leather shoes with a buckle and a modest 3 cm square heel, created to complement Yves Saint Laurent's iconic Mondrian dress, became a fashion sensation. Their success was overwhelming. Despite massive production, 120,000 pairs in the first 3 years, and endless knockoffs, today the original buckle shoes can only be seen in archival photos. Not a single pair survived, not in the top fashion museums in London, New York, or Paris, not even in the designer's own collection. The mystery of their disappearance is quite simple. Vivier's luxurious shoes were so incredibly comfortable that they were literally worn to shreds. There was nothing left to preserve. Only Yves Saint Laurent could boast a miraculously preserved original in his museum collection. He had just met Catherine Deneuve and was designing her costumes for the role of Séverine in Louis Buñuel's film Belle de Jour, where the heroine, dressed in Saint Laurent, wore Vivier's signature buckle shoes. And once again, the maestro didn't stop. He swung to the opposite extreme and designed tall, waiter-style boots for women, perfectly suited for the era of miniskirts. These high boots not only shielded legs from prying eyes, but also kept them warm. Brigitte Bardot, the muse of many fashion designers of her time, chose Vivier's suede waiter boots without hesitation for her music video shoot of Serge Gainsbourg's song Harley Davidson, posing in them on the legendary motorcycle. Thus, a new fashion silhouette was born, the pairing of a mini dress with knee-high boots. One of Vivier's most unusual and futuristic designs was the so-called crystal boot, made from transparent vinyl. In 1970, The Sun, an Australian newspaper, called it the most groundbreaking invention in footwear of the last 20 years. Men were rarely seen among Vivier's clientele. Yet one of his most extravagant creations was a pair of black satin boots with diamond-studded heels, custom-made for John Lennon. Rudolf Nureyev commissioned a pair of rust-colored suede boots, while Gary Cooper ordered several pairs of Richelieu's, low-heeled, lace-up shoes. In 1972, having seemingly achieved everything a designer could dream of, Roger Vivier decided to step away from haute couture, but not from shoes. In the years that followed, he designed models for Italian, Japanese, and of course, American footwear companies. Vivier became the third French designer to receive the prestigious Neiman Marcus Award, often referred to as the Oscar of fashion. Before him, only Christian Dior and Yves Saint Laurent had received the honor. Vivier wasn't just one of the most exclusive shoemakers in the world. Few could rival him in the number of designs copied and mass-produced over the decades. But the idea of mass appeal was never foreign to him. That's why he enthusiastically accepted the offer to design a shoe collection for the major French footwear brand, Miris. "There's something so modern," he said, "about reviving a company's image with someone as old as I am." What may have seemed like an eccentric move proved entirely successful, confirming that true talent knows no age. One of the standout pieces, his new Wave model from the summer Vivier Miris collection, with a heel made from transparent plastic, became a hit of the season. Roger Vivier passed away in 1998, and yet his shoes are once again at the height of fashion. Often mistakenly referred to as Blahniks, people forget that Vivier was the one who created these iconic styles, long before Manolo Blahnik had even begun his career.